Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Daily Betslip. We are joined by Gilles Gallant, sports betting analyst for Action Network, the first ever guest on the Daily Betslip. I hope you feel honored, Gilles. Thank you for joining me. Former co-worker, Gilles. We used to work together back in the day. Good friends as well. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, and I was saying before we came on, it took me like 2 years to get an invite onto Bacon Bets podcast, one of your podcasts that you do. Being the first guest on this show, it's a real big honor. So I'm really thankful to be here.
And I'm honored that you decided to join us today, Gilles. Pack show because of course it is football season. First week finally here. We got a lot to talk about because we're going to talk about your Dallas Cowboys. We're going to talk about touchdown scoring props, and we're going to give out a little upset pick of the week for the NFL. If you're watching this on Twitter, head over to YouTube. You can live comment. We can bring those up. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. But right off the start, Gilles, you are a noted Dallas Cowboys fan. Are you betting on the Cowboys for any futures? Are you invested at all in the Cowboys with your money this year, or are you strictly just rooting for them just for a heart play?
I feel like, Ian, with this segment, you were really trying to stir up a hornet's nest, like where you're trying to like stab me in the heart because you know that I am that glass half empty Cowboys fan,
Yes,
and you know that I'm not going to be that guy who's talking about how we're going 17-0 and all that stuff. So, unfortunately, but fortunately, probably for my bankroll by the end of the season, I am betting them to miss the playoffs at plus 175 because, and I mean, this could be kind of one of those emotional hedges. I think that's what we call them.
Emo hedge. Emo hedge. Yeah.
Part of the reason being is just because all the hype train is now it's on the Eagles. So all the pressure, I think, is now back on the Eagles to win this division based on them winning, the offseason championship belt, of signing guys like Hassan Reddick and James Bradbury. And, all the teams in the NFC East have improved. I don't really think the Cowboys did much in the offseason to improve. And of course, our starting left tackle is completely gone. They say he's going to be back by December, left tackle Tyron Smith. He's probably not coming back this year. So we're starting a rookie at left tackle who's already dealing with a high ankle sprain. There's just a lot of issues with the Cowboys. I mean, obviously skill position like wide receiver and tight end, that's already banged up. There's not a lot of depth there. And then we've got some really tough games this season. Like we got the Rams on the road. We got the Packers on the road. Minnesota on the road. Like we got to play the Titans late in the year. I know how you feel about the Titans, but again, just let's be real. It's still later in the year. And we kick off the season against Tampa. And I'm not saying that Tampa Bay is as formidable as they were in previous years, but you still have Tom Brady on the other side of that field. So that feels like that could be an 0-1 to start off the year. And just that's the thing is that I'm just not as confident in the playoff odds. And then, of course, when you're giving me plus 175 on that aspect, I'm going to take a swing on it.
I will say I did know you're not the typical Cowboys fan that thinks you're going to go 17-0 every season. I can't say I expected you to say that you're betting on them to miss the playoffs, though.
I like the NFC. It's that last 6-7 seeds right now. Right. You're just looking at the secondary teams in all these divisions, like San Francisco and the Rams in the NFC West. I like, for example, I like the Saints to make the playoffs in the NFC. So that would be who I would think would probably get that last playoff spot over the Cowboys. But yeah, that's just kind of the deal right now. And if they were in the AFC, I'd be worried about them having like the worst record in the league because the AFC is so stacked in comparison to the NFC.
It's weird you didn't mention my Falcons as one of those playoff teams. Why is that? What happened?
Well, I think we could just look at the bare metrics of roster. But then, of course, if we wanted to just look at the odds and just look at maybe like win totals, playoff odds, divisional odds, I don't think I'm far off a cliff here in saying that the Falcons are going to have one of the worst records in the NFC. And I think you know it too.
Yeah, they're going to stink this year. It's better to just have no hope sometimes, which is what I have with the Falcons. But you did mention that your Cowboys do play Sunday Night Football, a rematch of last year's Week 1 game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're not betting on the Cowboys to make the playoffs. You're actually betting on them to miss the playoffs. Do you have any hope in them to at least cover in Week 1 against the Buccaneers? I think the spread was 1.5. I think it's even moved at most places to 2.5. Any value on the Cowboys there?
I mean, as a home dog, sure. And especially because if you are going to play Tampa, this is probably the week you want to do it. Right. Where their offensive line is a little bit in flux. Brady has barely been at training camp, let alone practiced with the team this offseason. You know, they've got their own injury issues as well. So if you are going to catch a team like Tampa, this is the week to do it. I still just think from an overall depth standpoint and just obviously trusting, you know, head coach Mike McCarthy to make the right decisions in a close game it has taken years off my life already. And this is from somebody who had a head coach of Jason Garrett and, you know, just that's all I'm saying is that there's just a lot of things that can go wrong. And a lot of the time when you have a quarterback like Dak Prescott, who I think is a good quarterback, but a lot of the time he needs everything to go right for him in order to be elite. And there's just so many things right now that I could pick apart about that roster and about the way that they play that I just worry that this isn't a good matchup for them either way, even if Brady hasn't really been there for most of training camp.
So let's talk about what I want to talk to you about mostly, Gilles, because you have really cornered the market with touchdown scoring props in the NFL. You are the king of betting on touchdown scores. I encourage everyone to, of course, follow you on Twitter and follow your work over at Action Network for that stuff. So I want to know, just for the people out there who maybe haven't bet on touchdown scores or maybe who have done it in the past, but they're looking to get better at it because, quite frankly, it's pretty tough. I usually stay away from those. Do you have any general strategy, any basic tips for people who are looking to bet on player props for guys to score touchdown during these NFL games?
No, that's a great way to segue into this because what I did for the Action Network podcast is I did an anytime touchdown manifesto, which is kind of like my 10 rules for how I approach the market. So I'm not gonna read all 10, but I'll go through a few of them that I think are probably the most important to if you're going to be betting touchdown scores like front to back, like week 1 to week 18, the way that I do. And really, the first rule right off the top is profits and ROI. You got to think about that more so than what your win percentage is, because even like myself, who people would like yourself would call me the king of touchdown scorer props. Like I'm very realistic on how many I hit in a course of a season. It's probably closer to 30 to 35%. Now, the reason being is because I limit the amount of touchdown bets that I do under plus 200 to ensure that I'm getting value. That's one of the rules that I do because generally the guys that are less than plus 200, they don't hit as often as you would think. And that's the one thing is that when you're looking for value, you have to start looking at the wide receiver 2s or the 3s or the tight end 2s or the backup running backs or sometimes a quarterback in that span to be able to get what I feel is the best value for a touchdown score. Now, another thing that I don't do, and this is actually a rule that I'm pretty adamant about, but again, if people want to do that, I don't want to gatekeep and tell people they shouldn't bet touchdown scores, but I don't straight bet guys ever with minus odds because there's just too much injury risk. We know we've been watching football for years. It's a brutal game. Like guys can leave on any play. Guys can get subbed out randomly just because they just ran 3 straight times. And then now they're going to put in the backup running back to run in that score. So I just find betting guys like with minus odds is just, it's a recipe for disaster. Now, another thing that I would suggest is, and we have this at the Action Network app, is to use an odds comparison tool, making sure that you get the best odds because these props specifically, they vary so heavily from book to book. Like I posted this one about Marcus Mariota is that at DraftKings, he was plus 250 to score a touchdown, but he's like plus 700 to score a touchdown at Bet365. That's a huge discrepancy. Like if you're that adamant about Mariota running one in against the Saints. Now, I'm not one of those people, but I'm just saying from a value standpoint, you might want to consider that. So another thing that I do though, Ian, is I track the anytime touchdown odds from week to week. This will be available on Action Network as we get through the first couple weeks of the season. But what I do is I use that to be able to compare the odds and how they're trending and how they trending upwards or downwards. How was this odds in a previous matchup? That kind of thing is just that added arsenal to be able to use for my touchdown score bets. So those are a few of the rules that I do when betting touchdown scores.
Yeah, those are great tips, and those are always fun props to bet on. So we're what 2 nights away from opening night between the Bills and the Rams. Do you have any touchdown scoring leans potentially? Picks, leans, whatever you got. A couple names for guys to keep an eye on for Thursday night.
Leans with a Z, as we emphasize
That's
here.
Right.
Now, generally, I don't bet guys below plus 200, but looking at the Rams right now, there's not a lot of value outside of a guy, say, like Allen Robinson. And he's around plus 155, depending on the sports book. And part of the reason why you want to get on Allen Robinson right now is he's playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with. I don't think that's really a far stretch to say. And he has the wide receiver 1 talent. but getting it at plus 155 is a steal. If you even just look at the way Robert Woods odds, for example, were last year, it was ranging, from plus 105 to plus 120 in the 9 games that he played last year. So getting it at plus 155, if he scores in week 1, you're never going to get it above plus 140 for the rest of the season. So this is another reason why you want to take it. Dawson Knox, another guy that I'm pretty adamant about, that whenever he's over plus 200, that's a guy that you want to bet. 4th in red zone targets for all tight ends last season, 9 touchdown catches. There were 4 tight ends that all had 9 touchdown catches, but first in the NFL with that. I think Gabe Davis, there's a lot of love for him, and I think the hype train is justified, but it's almost going off the rails here because, again, he is still wide receiver 2 in this offense. I don't think that he should have equal or better odds than, like, say, Stephon Diggs, which I have seen at some books. And then, of course, another one, this is a long shot that I'm going to be putting out there because the reports of Van Jefferson not playing are growing. So I'm taking a look at a guy like Ben Skowronek at I've seen him around plus 650. Yeah, who?
Yeah.
But with him, what you saw is like last year and during the playoffs with Van Jefferson struggling with that knee injury, he was starting to see his snap counts increase and was playing meaningful snaps in the Super Bowl. So to be able to get him at those kind of odds at like plus 650 or something like that at like BetMGM, I think that's a worthy stab to take. But that's the thing too, is I'm probably only going to put a half unit on Skowronek. And the other thing, part of the rules is less is more early. Like we have 17, 18 weeks to make a profit. You can go into a hole pretty quickly if you start betting 4 or 5 touchdown scores per game. So that's why for this one, I'm just going to do 2.5 units, 2 guys, 1 for each team. And then a long shot would be Ben Skowronek.
Still like a little plus 650. What did you say? Ben Skowronek?
Skowronek.
Skowronek, what a name. I do really quick, because this something happened, because you also sometimes dabble on turnover props as well.
This is true.
Obviously, that's a lot tougher to handicap, but really quick, tell the people, and I saw an article that you wrote at Action Network about this, and I was working with you when this happened. It's one of the most legendary nights of live betting I've ever witnessed. I was betting at turnover props in a game a couple of years ago. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so this was the second article I wrote at Action Network. Basically, I gave out some rules on how to do it. I go all in on one team, and I take the first 4 drives for that team. And the odds typically range for a live turnover bet, because you're betting basically a result of drive, around plus 400 to plus 500 for every drive. So, and that is one thing I wanted to bring up. Like you had started when we were working together, you had started like 2 months prior. So again, you probably were just like, what is this guy doing? Why is he doing that? But it was with Case Keenum and the Washington, then Redskins. But they had 5 turnovers that night, and I bet on 4 of them, and I went 4 for 4. And I was basically like calling my shot, like the babe, like where I was like, Skins first drive turnover plus 400, and then it hits. And then that was kind of like my blow up moment on Twitter, like where you get like 5,000 like new followers like overnight. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think I could ever replicate it, because I've tried to dabble on bad quarterbacks in primetime, like the Jared Goffs, the Jameis Winstons, the Mitch Trubisky's. They're never as inept as that, where they're able to have that many turnovers and continue the rest of the game. So unfortunately, it probably never be replicated, but it was a fun recap. It was a fun thing to just relive and talk about. And you should go read it at theactionnetwork.com.
Yes, you should. Just over 30 units, just like that in one game. Really quick, about 2 minutes here, Gilles. Not only are you touchdown better, not only do you bet on turnovers, you've also been a very big underdog better. Mm-hmm. So it is week 1 of the NFL. Call your shot. Give me an upset in week 1, straight up upset.
Okay. So I'm not sure if this is going to be considered as an upset, but I like the Vikings as a home dog here. Rodgers on the Packers, they kind of need an offensive overhaul with Devontae Adams gone. You know, he's not really doing as much practice during training camp. You saw last year in week 1 against the Saints, it was basically like an extended preseason game. They got blew out, and then they basically won like 14 straight, like right after that. But the point is that they need to rely on the run more. And honestly, I don't think the Vikings defense is as bad as last year's metrics indicate. Like they definitely fell apart down the stretch, but I think they can keep Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon in check. And of all the home dogs, this is really the only one that I could talk myself into. I couldn't do it with the Cardinals, the Bears, Lions, or the Texans. And of course, I don't bet on my Cowboys ever. But I think it'll be a close game. And I think if the Vikings want any shot at winning the AFC North, this is kind of a must-win game in their spot. And I will say, Ian, I almost took the Falcons money line as like almost like a troll pick. But I don't want to seem like I'm pandering to you. So that's why, there'll be no Falcons money line on my card this week.
There we go. I'm with you on that one. I'm on the Vikings. I got a couple underdog money line plays as well for week 1, but we agree on that one at least. Vikings over the Packers. Thank you very much, Gilles, for jumping on here. The first ever guest daily Betslip. Be sure to follow him at GDog5000. And why don't you tell the folks what's going on and where they can find your work this season?
Yeah, absolutely. So follow me on Twitter at GDog5000. You can find all my picks in the Action app. I'll have a weekly Action Network podcast every Monday, kind of a look ahead to the opening lines and recap of games. And of course, the Touchdown Show at 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Action Network YouTube channel.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gilles, once again for joining us. Next up, don't go away because Ben Heisler will be joining me. We are going to be talking best bets for tonight. Game of the night. Between the White Sox and Mariners as well. So he'll be here in 10 seconds? Thank you very much, Gilles. I appreciate it. So yeah, like I said, best bets for tonight. Ben's got a couple of WNBA plays. I got 3 MLB plays. We got game of the night. We also got community picks, a few picks that were sent in to us over Twitter today. We will dive into those and give our thoughts on them. Actually, community pick for some tennis action too. So I believe Ben is here. Yes, he is.
Hello, Ian.
Ben Heisler, what's going on?
Good to be here. Always a thrill to be able to follow the great Gilles. I think I got it right. I've been practicing it over and over and over again to make sure that I did not botch the first guest here on Daily Betslip. But excited, big week of games over the course of this week, and I know that you and I both have some baseball plays for tonight. And yeah, it is WNBA game time as well. So excited to dive into these with you.
Yes, getting down to the nitty-gritty. What is it, the semifinals now in WNBA playoffs?
Yeah, semifinals, two big games. The Storm are in a winner go home situation for Sue Bird's final year. Of course, the Connecticut Sun at home need a win to be able to advance. It's getting serious, Ian. Getting serious in WNBA semifinals.
Love it. It's where we are. This week is kind of like the beginning of the golden months of sports where we got a little bit of everything going on, leading right into the start of the NBA and NHL season, which is a lot closer than you kind of think coming up here in a couple months. So let's get right into picks, Ben. Before we give out our picks, let's take a look at some community picks for tonight, shall we? Let's bring up the first one. Tennis from Smart Picks at Tennis18, Alex. Rublev versus Tiafoe. They have Rublev to win, and they're using decimal odds, which I believe would translate to plus 110 on the money line, I believe, for the first pick. Throwing decimal odds at me, certainly not my strength. We are in North America, not Europe. But also Berrettini versus Rude. Berrettini to win at 1.9, which I think is, I don't know. I think that's just under even money. I don't know. I don't know decimal odds. Those are 2 picks. And what else I don't know is any tennis handicapping. Ben, I don't know if you have any thoughts, but if you do want to see our tennis picks and if we agree with them or not, head over to BetSided because Donovan Smoot is our tennis expert. He's unfortunately not on the show today. I did want to highlight those picks, though, because it's pretty rare that we get tennis community picks in.
It's an exciting time to be watching tennis. I got my almost 3.5-year-old son hooked on watching Serena Williams' final match. And now he's sad because he wants to watch more Serena. I keep trying to tell him there's no more Serena. So I've been kind of mixing in old U.S. Open highlights, hoping that he doesn't know the difference. As far as these picks go, Ian, yeah, your guess is as good as mine. I would track down our guys, Donovan Smoot and Reed Wallach, over on Twitter. They'll have plenty of U.S. Open coverage that you'll be able to find for a lot of these upcoming matches, both for today and for tomorrow. So plenty of actual tennis coverage over at BetSided. But as far as you and I handicapping these matches, probably best to stay away from us.
Yes, I agree, but let's talk about some sports that we can chime in on. I believe the rest of the picks here are some baseball picks, so let's bring up the next community pick. Ty Herndon at Farseer. Ty, White Sox first 5 plus 0.5, minus 115. So if the White Sox are winning or if the game is tied after the first 5 innings, his bet will cash. He says Cueto has been much better than Gilbert in recent splits. Yes, obviously we both have a pick for this game because it's game of the night, so I don't want to give it away too much. But first 5 is probably a smart move because if there's one area that the Mariners have a massive advantage in this game, it is their bullpen. They've had one of the better bullpens in Major League Baseball throughout this season. So I certainly like sticking to the first 5 there.
Yeah, first five, if you find our best MLB parlay picks over on BetSided today, I included this game into those picks, one of which we'll talk about in our game of the night. But I will say it is from the first five perspective. I don't mind the White Sox early on just because I think Cueto has been almost a pillar of consistency for one of the most inconsistent teams in all of baseball this year. I was looking over Gilbert's numbers as of late. They're better. Last four starts giving up 3 runs or less. But to start off Augustine, he was pretty bad, giving up 13 runs in 9 1/3 innings. Both came against the New York Yankees, though. That was, when the Yankees could hit. Not so much the case anymore other than Aaron Judge. So now that he started to move away from the Yankees, he's starting to pitch a little bit better and has done so in his last 4 starts.
Which brings up the age-old question when it comes to betting on baseball, and it's something every single sports bettor disagrees or has different opinions on, I should say, and that's how big of a sample size do you use when you're looking at these players, these teams, and specifically pitchers? Do you just go back 2 weeks? Do you go last month? Do you go since the All-Star break? Do you go all season? It's certainly a balancing act, and I think everyone has a little bit of a slightly different opinion for that. But yeah, we will be talking about that game more often, or we'll say more about it at the end of the show because that is our game of the night tonight. Pretty good pitching matchup there between Cueto and Gilbert. So let's bring up the next play for tonight. It is the Braves -1.5 over the Athletics. Certainly not an underdog pick. Braves should be favored by quite a bit in that one. Going up against Cole Irvin, though, who is one of the Athletics' decent pitchers, 3.35 ERA. Any thoughts on that game, Ben?
So my initial thought was that it was going to be one of 2 different plays that I had for our BetSided Daily Dinger picks. And for anyone that's just joining us for the first time, the Daily Dinger is when all of us put our collective hats together and choose a home run prop pick. And I was debating between 2 different plays. I ended up going with the one that wasn't a part of this game, but Ronald Acuna has dominated against Cole Irvin over the course of his career. His OPS, Ian, is like 2,000. It's insane. And yet I think I found a slightly better play with a lot more value on the board. I think that was the key differentiator. So I do expect Atlanta to be able to get some runs on the board. Yes, it's a pitcher's park. We've seen the differences between guys that leave Oakland. Think of Frankie Montas, for example. The moment he leaves Oakland, the numbers start to go way back up. So maybe we're looking at a possible under here, but I do think you'll see a couple Braves go deep tonight.
Yep, I love it. Let's bring up the next community pick that was sent to us over Twitter. Sean Mitchelson at TheSoxFan24 has become a staple with his community picks on the show, and I love his because he gives it a little breakdown as well, which certainly makes our job that much easier. He's going to go D-backs, first 5 Moneyline, +128, little underdog pick for the folks. They continue to be one of the top 5 most profitable first 5 inning teams. Kelly versus Musgrove also could attack the under, but I'll roll with Kelly, 0.9 ERA versus San Diego and 1.74 road ERA since July 1st. Sean Mitchelson has been reading my notes, apparently. He has now just taken all my points I was going to say about that game in a little bit in the show. But yes, I obviously like that pick quite a bit. Any thoughts?
I do as well. Merrill Kelly, if you're looking at all the different starters, based on sort of collective numbers together, if you look at Fangraphs, the best pitchers on the slate tonight include Aaron Nola, number 1, Shane Bieber, number 2, number 3, Merrill Kelly. That's better than Tyler Anderson, better than Framber Valdez, better than Garrett Cole, better than Kyle Wright, and better than the opponent he's going up against in Joe Musgrove. Kelly's had a fantastic season. ERA at 2.84, guy that's going deep into games. Doesn't strike out a lot. His strikeouts per 9 are just around 7.76, but he's someone that gets a lot of outs, really deceptive, and he's been great this year. So as long as you're backing Arizona to keep their hot bats, where they got off to a really good stretch about a week or so ago with the bats, kind of cooled off a little bit since, but I certainly don't mind this play in the early going.
Yeah, producer Joanne's going to be loving this show because we are just going to be heaping her Arizona Diamondbacks with a lot of praise throughout this show. But before we get into our own picks, I did want to shout out Cody Wells is in the chat with a pick as well. Let's bring up his. He loves these total base player props, and he's done pretty well with them. For tonight, he's got J.D. Martinez under 0.5 total bases. So basically for him to knock it on base, 1 for 13 with 5 Ks against, and how are we going to pronounce that name today? Ian Chargois?
I mean, maybe the French Revolution of the Daily Betslip lives on today. I don't think could it be Chargot, perhaps?
Could be.
Chargot, Chargois. Either way, he might have the best of JD Martinez. It's you think some of the best hitters in the game, and granted, for a while he was putting up fantastic numbers, but Ian, he's been really bad. He may have finally broke out of it. Finally got a hit last night. Had gone. This is pretty insane. Since August 23rd, he had not gotten, or I'm sorry, he had gone about 3 straight days without getting hit, but starting to finally turn it around. So I get the play from Cody, really looking more so on the value here against the pitcher that just hasn't been able to figure out so far this year.
And Cody did chime in afterwards with the odds. It is plus 145. So if you're looking for a pretty big plus money play for MLB prop tonight, that might be the way to go if you want to tail Cody. Side note about JD Martinez. I don't know what happened to his power. Home runs, 43 in 2018, 36 in 2019. 28 declined last year. Still not bad, though. Only 11 home runs for JD Martinez this year. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, that's really, really strange. He does have 2 in the last week. So, again, maybe he's starting to turn the corner. But for Cody's sake, I hope today is not the case where it happens.
All right, let's get into our best bets for tonight. I'm going to start off. With my pick here. We'll finish off with a WNBA pick. So let's get the MLB picks out of the way, and then maybe we'll go back-to-back WNBA. So I'm going to go pretty chalky pick here to start things off. I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Brewers on the run line against the Rockies tonight. My strategy for any game involving the Brewers is pretty simple. I've talked about this several times. If the Brewers are taking on a right-handed pitcher, you bet on them. If they're taking on a lefty, bet against them. Their OPS increases from 666 against lefties all the way up to 750 against righties, which is the 3rd best mark in all of baseball this season. Tonight they do face a right-handed pitcher, so that means we're going to bet on them. They were taking on Chad Kuhl. Chad Kuhl started once against the Brewers already this season, and it happened back on July 21st. He gave up 5 hits, 5 runs, 3 earned, and 2 walks, all in only 2.1 innings against the Brewers in that start. So he got absolutely lit up by them. Opposite is true for Brandon Woodruff, who gets a start for the Brewers. He is also a righty, but the Rockies' OPS drops from 767 against lefties down to 681 against righties, and he pitched once against the Rockies this season, and he went 6 innings, only gave up 1 earned run. So I think the Brewers win big in Colorado tonight.
All very valid points. I will say this from the perspective of somebody that is slightly on the other side. It's not a complete fade of your pick, but my pick on this game is actually towards Chad Kuhl, who you mentioned. It's a tough matchup against the Brewers, but I think his strikeout prop, Ian, is just far too low. It's only at 3.5. Really good odds available at FanDuel at minus 104. Now, you might say to yourself, why would he be excited to come to Coors Field? Because he is. He's thrilled to be coming back to Coors Field. Even if it's the Milwaukee Brewers, the team that roughed him up the last time, Chad Kuhl cannot wait to come back to Colorado. Why is that? Well, his last 3 starts on the road all came against really good teams in the San Diego Padres, the New York Mets, and the Atlanta Braves. At home, in the bandbox that is Coors Field, his ERA is 4.17. Not a terrible ERA, but certainly nothing impressive either, except when you consider the fact that this is the easiest place to hit in all of baseball. But on the road, his ERA balloons all the way up to 6. He also gets a Brewers lineup that has struggled to hit the baseball. They have the 6th most strikeouts since the start of September. They're only hitting 216 as a team over the last 6 days as well. And I know, Ian, there's a lot of people that look at a high total for this game, look at Milwaukee's ability against right-handed pitchers. I understand all of that, and there's going to be that propensity to want to move towards the over. I think you kind of zag when everybody else is zagging here. I think the number is too low. I think the odds are too good. And Kuhl has hit this prop in 4 of his last 5 games. Milwaukee's struggling to swing the bat right now. It's a different team. And I do like him to clear that strikeout prop of 3.5 tonight.
I will say when I was looking through the stats, the one thing that did concern me about my play is the fact that you brought up that Kuhl is somehow better at Coors Field than he is on the road this year, which is certainly not common for Rockies pitchers. All right. Yeah, it is kind of a little opposite, but we can still hit our own. We can still hit our bets here.
Both of them can still apply. Maybe your Brewers really get going in the later part of the game, and then they just blow this one wide open. While Kuhl is able to go 5 innings or so, get to 4 strikeouts, then everybody wins.
Perfect. I have 2 more baseball picks. I'll give those out really quick, and then we'll get into some WNBA playoff action. First one's going to be a big underdog. It's going to be a team that we've already talked about on this show, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Sean Mitchelson gave out the first 5 on the Diamondbacks. I'm going to just go full game, plus 142 here. I bet against the Diamondbacks last night. I won't make the same mistake again tonight. Quietly one of the hottest teams in Major League Baseball. In fact, over their last 10 games, they have the best record in the National League, tied for the best record in the majors at 8-2. And tonight, we've talked about him. They're putting out Merrill Kelly. It'll be his 3rd start against the Padres. This is, once again, I'm reading the notes that Sean Mitchelson apparently stole from me. Only allowed 1 earned run in his 10 combined innings against the Padres so far this season. Joe Musgrove trending in the wrong direction, 4.37 ERA since the All-Star break. And also dating back to August 1st. And once again, this kind of brings up the debate, how far do you want to look back for sample size? But if you make it August 1st, the Diamondbacks offense has actually been better, 7th in OPS compared to the Padres at 10th. So at plus 142, I'll take a shot on the Diamondbacks tonight.
I think you're on the right side too. Kelly's numbers have been terrific both at home, but a little bit better on the road. 72 in the 3rd innings. His ERA is 2.74. Opponents are hitting only 198 against him away from Chase Field. So to be able to get the Diamondbacks at this good of a price, especially when Musgrove and the Padres really have been far more inconsistent down the stretch for games that they need to win. Arizona's not going to win a wild card spot, but they're making things certainly interesting down the stretch, and they're playing free and easy baseball right now. So I certainly don't mind this play, and I think it's a really good price.
I agree. I think the odds for this game are mispriced. So I'll back the plus money play there for my last pick. Before we get to game of the night, because I'll have another MLB play for that later on the show, going to go with a total bet. I'm going over 9 between the Dodgers and the Giants tonight. Tyler Anderson gets a start for the Dodgers, and while his ERA season long is pretty good, you should be aware that one of his worst starts of the season came against the San Francisco Giants. He gave up 5 earned runs in 5 innings pitched. And I think a big reason why that happened is because the Giants are significantly better against left-handed pitchers this season with an OPS of 752. So, I mean, I'm keeping this handicap pretty simple. The Dodgers are the best offense in all of baseball. They're going up against a Giants team who has already hit well against Tyler Anderson in the past, and a team that does well against left-handed pitchers. And the Giants bullpen isn't that great. One of the worst, actually, in the majors. So just going to sit back. It's the last game on the board. I'm probably not going to stay up for the whole thing. If I do, going to watch it in bed. Just give me the over 9 in that one.
Not an issue there. I know especially Anderson, considering his struggles against the Giants, is certainly a factor. But if you read our weather report over at BetSided bright and early this morning, you will know that West Coast weather, Ian, in particular, as of late, been really windy with a lot of wind blowing out to the outfield. We've noticed it in San Diego as of late. The Dodgers, Angels, a lot of games have been starting to see those totals creep up because the wind is starting to take flight of the ball. Right now, the forecast in LA, 82 degrees and sunny with the wind blowing out to center and right center field at upwards of 10 to 11 miles per hour. So you get a couple balls up in the zone. The Dodgers, especially with what they're able to do offensively, certainly I think the over very much in play.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And it's a great way to end the night. Just cheer for some runs. All right, let's switch gears to the WNBA semifinal action tonight. I will have very little to input on this, unfortunately, Ben. So why don't you take the lead here? Give me your 2 WNBA plays for tonight.
All right. So obviously, as we mentioned, it's the semifinals, game 4 between the Chicago Sky and Connecticut Sun. The Sun need a win to be able to advance, force a game 5 back in Chicago. It's a best of 5 series. Same thing in the West semifinals between the Las Vegas Aces and the Seattle Storm. Storm need a win. Otherwise, they are done. I've been, for whatever reason, Ian, I've kind of stumbled across these over the course of the postseason. Wasn't doing a lot of these during the regular season, but first quarter bets for me in the WNBA have been working really, really well. It's worked for me. It may not work for you, but these have gone 13-6 against the spread so far in the postseason. So the first play that I like, give me Chicago on the road, first half money line, -108. Throughout the course of the entire season, they have now played Connecticut 7 times this year. And they've won the first quarter 6-1. But Connecticut needs this game to stay alive. And I think they're going to come out swinging. They've had very good defensive battles over the course of the postseason so far. In fact, the one time Chicago lost the first quarter was back in game 1 at home. However, the reason I like first half instead of first quarter here for Chicago on the money line, their depth has been part of the reason why they've been so successful, why they're trying to defend a WNBA championship. They probably have the deepest roster in the entire league. Also, if you're trying to narrow it down to a couple different categories, Chicago's second quarter net rating on the road, plus 17.6. Connecticut's second quarter net rating at home is minus 5.6. You're talking about a difference in net rating of more than 22 points in the second quarter for Chicago on the road and Connecticut at home. To me, this sets up really well for Chicago based off their depth and their rotations to make a run at the end, and especially in the second quarter, and come out on top with really good odds. I like Chicago hanging around in the first half, money line minus 108.
Love it. I will have almost nothing to input on this. So I like it, especially that net rating in the second quarter is pretty wild. So Sky, first half money line for your first WNBA pick. Yes. Give me your second.
All right, so second one's the late game. While you're up watching the Dodgers trying to get all the runs in the world against the Giants, I will be up late in the night watching the Aces and the Storm. I have Seattle as a championship winner with Chicago. Seattle's got them at the beginning of the postseason at 6-1, so I will be rooting for them to survive and move on and force a game 5. But I do like the Aces for a first quarter money line bet. Just going to go right back to the bread and butter for that. Similar to Connecticut, I mentioned that Seattle needs a win, and I think they'll get it because Sue Bird is not going to go out without a fight. But this has been really weird to watch, Ian. First quarter, all these teams have been terrible at home. First 2 games of the series, Seattle dominated Las Vegas in the first quarter offensively. In game 3 in Seattle, it was all Las Vegas. I can't figure out why the road teams continue to play more loose. But Vegas just doesn't have the pressure that Seattle does in this point. And I think they start off playing the game the same way that they did in game 3. Free and easy. Chelsea Gray has been fantastic. Kelsey Plum has made a ton of outside shots for them. So I like them first quarter money line. And then once the Aces get off to a decent enough lead, I'll start to back Seattle. Remember, they came all the way back, should have won that game. Las Vegas just took it right out from under them with some crazy plays down the stretch in one of the better games that you'll ever see from the WNBA. So give me the Aces first quarter, and then I'll wait for the right opportunistic time to go ahead and bet the Storm live here.
Boom, there we have it. 2 WNBA picks. Let's bring up our little recap graphic so we have all our picks kind of here in one spot. I'm on the Brewers minus 1.5 against the Rockies tonight. Diamondbacks as a plus 142 underdog against the Padres, and over 9 between the Dodgers and the Giants. Ben, you are on over 3.5 strikeouts for Chad Kuhl. Sky first half money line against the Sun, and Aces first quarter money line against the Storm. There you have it. Those were our best bets of the night. Let's move into the final portion of the show here, which is going to be Game of the Night. And tonight it is 2 teams who haven't made many appearances for Game of the Night for us, but I think it's a worthy one tonight. Is the Chicago White Sox against the Seattle Mariners. Johnny Cueto and Logan Gilbert will go head-to-head, a pretty good pitching matchup. And also some playoff implications here in this game. The White Sox sitting 2 games back of the AL Central lead. And the Mariners are firmly inside the wild card spot, but it's certainly not locked in yet. They can't take their foot off the pedal, so to speak, or else they could run into some danger with the Orioles sneaking up behind them. So White Sox, Mariners. Ben, why don't you start us off? What's your best bet for tonight?
All right, so I mentioned a little bit earlier on in the show that this is one of 3 games that I put into my favorite parlay picks for the night. Mentioned the first 5 play. While I'm not on the White Sox side, I am on the side of the under. It's at minus 152 over at FanDuel. Yeah, first 5 innings under, super boring. Who cares? This is a good pitching matchup. And Johnny Cueto basically has been the definition and pillar of consistency for the White Sox really since he started to pitch for them when they brought him on in mid-May. He's had 2 starts since arriving in Chicago, Ian, where he's given up more than 3 earned runs. He's been excellent for them. And it's just been the needed pitcher in the middle of that rotation that they've needed because they've been so up and so down over the course of the year. He's also really good first and second time through the order. 2.66 ERA the first time through the order, 2.62 ERA the second time around. And Cueto's also been very good on the road in ERA under 2 in about 60 innings pitched. And then you have Gilbert. Like, this is somebody, Ian, that I talked to you about at the beginning of the season as someone that I thought could be a dark horse Cy Young pick. And he's had a really good year, but, some ups and downs. I know that it was rough at the beginning of August, but he's somebody through the first 5 innings of the season. He's got a 3.28 ERA. Fielder independent pitching has been really good as well. And both of these lineups have also struggled over the course of the year as well. So give me the starters, give me the under 4.5 runs and what I think should be a really nice pitching matchup tonight. And I think the odds are indicative of the fact that a lot of the bookmakers think this is the prediction as well.
Yeah, so there you have it. First 5 under. I do like that quite a bit. That paired up with the first 5 bet that the viewer gave in the community picks. I'm going to go away from the first 5, though. I'm just going to go full game. I was on the White Sox to beat the Mariners last night, and it came through for me. So why not just try to do it again? I'm going to take the White Sox underdogs tonight for the full game. Plus 126 for a lot of the same reasons that you echoed, Ben, a lot of the same reasons that the viewer was talking about there as well. Just Johnny Cueto has just been fantastic. Now, where the reasoning I'm going to use for this pick when it comes to Logan Gilbert is kind of the sample size I like to use when it comes to pitchers is pre-All-Star break, post-All-Star break. And yes, I know Logan Gilbert the past couple of starts has started to turn things around, but still 4.84 ERA in 8 starts since the All-Star break. Also in a little bit of a tough battle tonight, White Sox 9th in OPS since August 1st. That's a better mark than the Mariners because the Mariners have been winning games a lot recently, but kind of more based on their pitching as opposed to their offense. Only 18th in the majors in OPS dating back to August 1st. And like you said about Cueto, fantastic on the road, 1.81 ERA in 9 road starts this season. So fantastic pitching matchup, but I do think Johnny Cueto has a slight advantage in those pitching numbers. So if you're going to give me him and the White Sox at plus 126, I'll take it. Now, both you and the viewer are going first 5. Maybe I should have done that because the Mariners do have a significantly better bullpen than the White Sox. But hey, I went full game last night. It worked. I'll go full game again today, plus 126.
Yeah, don't mind it. I was on Lance Lynn to be able to get the job done. Another pitcher for the White Sox that really got off to a rough start, but has since gotten back under command. Remember, he didn't start the season for them, was out several months with an injury. So when he came back, he was super rusty, didn't have spring training to work stuff out. With Cueto, you just kind of know what to expect. With Gilbert, that was the case for the first handful of months of the season. But like you said, it's been a little bit more up and down since the second half. So if you're looking for a little bit more consistency, go ahead and back the White Sox with a guy that you know with what he's going to deliver every night.
Yes, for sure. And in terms of the community pick for this game, it's been a close one. The White Sox just get the edge. Apparently, I've been told the Mariners won the vote on Twitter, but combined with the YouTube picks, the White Sox got the slight edge. So myself and the community are on the same side tonight.
Must have been all the folks out in BC who tuned in to see Gilles at the beginning of the show just hammer that Mariners pick, and then that kind of flipped the edge over there once the Chicago White Sox started to come on board.
Yes, I love it. All right, that is our show for today. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. If you want college football picks, be sure to check out the Week 2 episode of the Early Read. It aired earlier today live. You can check the replay of that on our BetSided YouTube channel. I will be back tomorrow. Speaking of the Early Read, I'll be back tomorrow with Reed Wallach, and we're going to give out our official Super Bowl picks because tomorrow is going to be the day before. It'll be NFL season eve tomorrow. It is time. We've talked about every single thing NFL on the show. We've ranked quarterbacks. We've ranked running backs. We've ranked defensive players. Like it is time to finally give out our Super Bowl picks. Myself and Reed will do that tomorrow on the show, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to check that out. Ben, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, hoping for a couple of these parlay picks to hit so that it's a very fun and successful night. Best of luck to you, Ian, on all your picks. Best of luck to the community. May all of your best bets hit. Always a pleasure. Looking forward to doing these Tuesday hits with you.
Can't wait. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the football season as well as we get into it. Thank you all for watching. Gamble or bless. Good luck with all your picks tonight. I'll see you tomorrow.